The steel door slammed shut behind her. 4 guards circled Admiral Sarah Chen like wolves, their eyes cold with authority. They had no idea the woman in handcuffs was one of the most decorated Navy SEAL commanders in U.S. history. And in exactly 17 minutes, they would realize their catastrophic mistake. But by then, everything would have already changed. Asterisk. Hey, real quick, comment your city below. I'm always amazed by how many places these stories reach. And if you're into true stories with real emotion, make sure you're subscribed. Asterisk Sarah Chen had survived 3 tours in Afghanistan, neutralized high-value targets in Syria, and commanded operations that saved thousands of lives. But nothing in her 22 years of military service prepared her for this moment, standing in a freezing holding cell at the Blackridge County Detention Center. Still wearing her disguise, dirt under her fingernails, her hair deliberately matted and unwashed, she looked nothing like the woman whose face had been on the cover of Time magazine just 6 months ago. That was the Point Dot operation. Nightfall was the most sensitive undercover mission the Navy had ever authorized. For 3 months, Sarah had lived on the streets, embedded in a network of homeless veterans, tracking a human trafficking ring that had been abducting former service members. Men and women who'd served their country, now invisible to society, disappearing without a trace. The operation had finally led her here, to Blackridge County, to this detention center, to the very heart of the trafficking network. But her cover was about to be tested in a way she never anticipated. Guard Marcus Webb stood 6'4", his uniform stretched tight across his chest, a man who clearly enjoyed the power his badge provided. He'd seen hundreds of homeless women pass through these doors. To him, Sarah was just another number, another nobody. "Strip search, cell 3, he barked to his colleagues. "Standard procedure for vagrant arrests." Sarah's jaw tightened. She'd anticipated searches, background checks, even interrogations. But this wasn't part of the plan. Her emergency beacon, a device no bigger than a pill, was sewn into the lining of her jacket. If they found it, 3 months of work would vanish. Worse, the trafficking ring would scatter, and dozens of veterans would never be found. She had to stay in character, had to let this play out. "Please," she said, her voice cracking, playing the part of a terrified homeless woman. "I didn't do anything wrong. I was just sleeping in the park." Webb's laugh was cruel. "Yeah, that's what they all say. Jenkins, Patterson, secure the room. Lopez, you're with me. 4 guards. All male. All looking at her like she was less than human." Sarah's mind calculated angles, distances, vulnerable points. She could disable all 4 in under 30 seconds. Her hands, even cuffed, were lethal weapons. But violence would blow her cover, would destroy the mission, would let the traffickers win. So she did what few people knew a Navy SEAL admiral could do. She submitted. The search was humiliating, thorough, and deliberately cruel. They found nothing because Sarah had hidden the beacon exactly where they wouldn't look, using a technique she'd learned from a former CIA operative in Kabul. But as they processed her, something unexpected happened. Guard Lopez, the youngest of the 4, barely 23 with kind eyes that didn't match his uniform, hesitated when he saw the scars. Sarah's body was a map of her service, marks from shrapnel, bullets, and hand-to-hand combat. Scars that no homeless woman should have. Scars that told a story. "Ma'am," Lopez said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. "Where did you serve?" Sarah's heart stopped. She'd been so careful. Had covered most of the scars. But one, a distinctive mark from a knife wound in Kandahar, was visible on her shoulder. Webb turned sharply. "What did you say?" "Nothing, sir. Just processing the inmate." But the seed was planted. Lopez had seen something. Recognized something. Sarah was escorted to a holding cell in the detention center's basement, a place the official records claimed didn't exist. The walls were concrete, the air was damp, and the only light came from a single flickering bulb. This was it. The heart of the operation dot through the thin walls. She could hear voices, crying, the sound of people begging. Her fellow veterans, trapped in this nightmare, waiting to be sold. She'd found them, but now she was trapped 2 hours past in darkness. Sarah used the time to map every sound, every footstep, every pattern. Guard rotations, delivery schedules. The moment when the night shift would be at its weakest dot, her extraction team was on standby, but she couldn't call them yet. She needed evidence, names, the people running this operation dot at 2:47 a.m. The door opened. A man entered, expensive suit, Italian shoes. A face that belonged in a boardroom, not a trafficking operation. He smiled at Sarah like they were old friends. "Miss Chen," he said, and Sarah's blood turned to ice. "Or should I say Admiral Chen?" Her cover was blown. The man's name was Victor Reeves, and as he explained with disturbing pride, he'd been 3 steps ahead the entire time. He was former military intelligence, dishonorably discharged, and he'd recognized Sarah's infiltration pattern from day one. "Did you really think we wouldn't notice?" Victor said, circling her cell. "A homeless woman who moves with military precision? Who never begs in the same spot twice? Who asks questions about missing veterans a little too specifically?" Sarah's mind raced. If Victor knew who she was, why hadn't he killed her already? The answer came with chilling clarity. "You're not a problem, Admiral. You're an opportunity." Victor's smile widened. "Do you know how much a Navy SEAL admiral is worth on the black market? Not as labor, as leverage, as a trophy. We have buyers in 3 countries already bidding." He was going to sell her, but Victor made one critical mistake. He underestimated what a Navy SEAL would do when backed into a corner. "You have 24 hours to say goodbye to your life," Victor said, turning toward the door. "I'd suggest you use them wisely." The moment he left, Sarah went to work. The pill beacon in her jacket lining wasn't her only contingency. Sewn into the sole of her left boot was a narrow piece of carbon fiber, flexible as plastic but harder than steel. She'd carried it through security, through the strip search. Through everything it took her 47 minutes to work it free. Another 30 to pick the lock on her cell door, using techniques learned from a master thief in Islamabad who traded his freedom for information. The hallway beyond was dark. But Sarah moved like a shadow, every step silent, every breath controlled. She found the room where the veterans were being held. 12 men and women, all former service members, all drugged to keep them compliant. Among them was Lieutenant James Morrison, a man she'd served with in Fallujah, a brother in arms who'd been missing for 8 months. Seeing him like this, broken and defeated, ignited something in Sarah that no amount of training could contain rage, but she channeled it, controlled it, used it. She woke James first, administering a counteragent she'd hidden in a false tooth, another contingency her team had prepared. "Sarah?" James's voice was weak, disbelieving. "Is that really you?" "It's me. And we're getting out of here. All of us." What happened next would become legend in Navy SEAL history. With James and 2 other veterans who could still walk, Sarah orchestrated a takeover from the inside. They had no weapons, no backup, and were outnumbered 3-1. But they had something the traffickers didn't. They were warriors. And warriors protect their own. Sarah moved through the facility like a force of nature. Guard Webb, the man who humiliated her hours earlier, never saw her coming. One moment he was laughing at his phone, the next he was unconscious, his radio in Sarah's hand. "Alpha Team, this is Nightfall. I'm Green. Execute extraction. We have 12 civilians for immediate evac." The response came instantly. "Copy, Nightfall. 2 minutes out." But 2 minutes might as well have been 2 hours. Victor Reeves had activated the facility's lockdown protocol. Steel doors slammed shut throughout the building. Armed guards converged on their position. And then came the second twist. Guard Lopez, the young man who noticed Sarah's scars, appeared around the corner. He had his weapon drawn, pointed directly at her. For a heartbeat, time stopped. Then Lopez lowered his gun. "My brother was a Marine," he said quietly. "Died in Helmand Province. I joined this department thinking I'd honor his memory. Instead, I've been working for monsters." He handed Sarah his weapon. "Tell me what to do, ma'am." With Lopez's help, they reached the facility's control room. Sarah accessed the security system, downloading everything: names, dates, financial records, video evidence of a trafficking network that spanned 17 states. But Victor wasn't done. He appeared on the security monitors, standing in the vehicle bay with a detonator in his hand. "You win, Admiral," he said, his voice echoing through the speakers. "But if I can't have this operation, no one can. This building is wired to explode in 90 seconds. You can save your veterans, or you can save the evidence. Choose." It was an impossible choice. The evidence would bring down the entire network, save hundreds of future victims. But the veterans in the basement couldn't move fast enough to escape. Sarah had seconds to decide. She looked at James, at the other veterans, at Lopez, who'd risked everything to help. Then she smiled. "Victor, you made one mistake," she said into the radio. "You assumed I came here alone." The building's roof exploded inward. Not from Victor's bombs, but from control-breaching charges. Sarah's extraction team, Navy SEALs from her own unit, rappelled down with military precision. Her second-in-command, Commander Mike Torres, grinned as he landed beside her. "You're late," Sarah said. "Traffic was terrible," Mike replied. Victor's face on the monitor turned from triumph to horror as he realized the truth. Sarah had activated her beacon hours ago, the moment Lopez had shown his hand. Her team had been in position the entire time, waiting for her signal. And the evidence? Sarah had been uploading it to secure military servers in real time through Lopez's security system access. Victor reached for his detonator, but he never got the chance. The third twist hit like a freight train. Sheriff Margaret Pierce entered the vehicle bay, her own weapon drawn, pointed at Victor. "Victor Reeves, you're under arrest," she said calmly. Victor's confusion was absolute. "Margaret, you're part of this operation. You've been taking payments for months." Sheriff Pierce's smile was cold. "I've been building a case against you for months. Every payment you made was documented. Every conversation recorded. I'm not dirty, Victor. I'm FBI." The trafficking network hadn't just been infiltrated by Sarah. It had been targeted from multiple angles. A coordinated operation between the Navy, FBI, and local law enforcement that Victor had never seen coming. The extraction was surgical. All 12 veterans evacuated safely. Victor Reeves and 47 members of his trafficking network arrested, simultaneously across 7 states. But as Sarah stood in the cold morning air, wrapped in a blanket provided by the medics, watching the sun rise over Blackridge County, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Not triumph, not relief. Sadness. Because for every veteran they'd saved, hundreds more were still out there, still invisible, still suffering. Lopez approached her hesitantly. "Admiral, I just want to say thank you for letting me help, and I'm sorry for everything you went through." Sarah turned to him. "You made a choice when it mattered, Lopez. That's what heroes do." "I'm no hero, ma'am." "You are. A hero would have stopped this before it started," Sarah said quietly. "I'm just someone who refuses to leave soldiers behind." 3 weeks later, Sarah stood before a classified congressional committee, delivering testimony that would change how the military tracked and protected homeless veterans. But the moment that stayed with her wasn't in that hearing room. It was James Morrison's hand on her shoulder, tears in his eyes, saying 4 words that made every moment of the mission worth it. "You brought me home." 6 months after Operation Nightfall, Sarah received a letter. No return address. Just a single page with handwritten words. "Admiral Chen, you don't know me, but you saved my daughter. She was one of the 12. She's home now. She's getting treatment. She's alive because of you. I spent my entire life thinking heroes weren't real. Thank you for proving me wrong." Sarah kept that letter in her desk drawer. On the hardest days, when the mission seemed impossible and the world seemed too broken to fix, she'd read it again, and she'd remember why she became a SEAL. Not for the glory, not for recognition, but for the people who couldn't fight for themselves. Marcus Webb, the guard who'd ordered Sarah's strip search, lost his job and faced charges for his role in covering up suspicious activities at the detention center. He never understood what hit him. Victor Reeves was sentenced to 47 consecutive life terms. In prison, surrounded by the very veterans he tried to destroy, he finally understood the meaning of justice. Guard Lopez left the sheriff's department and enlisted in the Navy. His application included a personal recommendation from Admiral Sarah Chen and Sheriff Margaret Pierce. Revealed to be FBI Special Agent Margaret Pierce received a commendation for her 3-year undercover operation that dismantled one of the largest human trafficking networks in U.S. history. But the real ending wasn't in awards or arrest out. It was in the 12 veterans who got a second chance, who got to go home, who got to heal. Sarah Chen returned to her duties as Admiral, but she never forgot the mission. Never forgot what it felt like to be powerless, humiliated, and underestimated. And she made sure that every SEAL under her command understood one fundamental truth. Rank doesn't make you a warrior. Medals don't make you a hero. What makes you both is refusing to abandon your people, no matter the cost. Even if it means enduring a strip search in a county jail, surrounded by enemies, with nothing but your training and your will to survive. Because that's what SEALs do. They endure, they adapt, they overcome, and they never, ever leave anyone behind. Operation Nightfall resulted in 127 arrests across 17 states, the rescue of 89 human trafficking victims, and the implementation of new veteran protection protocols across all branches of the U.S. military. Admiral Sarah Chen continues to serve. Her current assignment is classified. Guard Lopez graduated from Bud S training and is now serving as a Navy SEAL. The detention center at Blackridge County was permanently closed. The building now houses a veteran rehabilitation center, funded by assets seized from Victor Reeves' criminal network. Sometimes justice isn't just about punishment. Sometimes it's about making sure the same nightmare never happens again. And sometimes the most powerful person in the room is the one everyone underestimated. That's the end of today's story, but I hope it stays with you for a while. If something in it spoke to you, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't yet, and share your thoughts. It's your comments that keep me inspired to make the next one.